I'm Isabel Cazares. I'm a librarian and archivist here at the Arizona Historical Society, the Papago Park, Tempe location. I also have my colleague, Jennifer. Jen.
Hello, everyone. I am also an archivist and historian here at the Papago Park Library and Archives for the Arizona Historical Society.
And then we also have...
Hi there, my name is Todd Bailey. I'm the Special Projects Coordinator at Arizona Heritage Center. And you'll find me at the front desk at the Heritage Center as well. I work in guest services.
Excellent. And we are all excited today to bring you this presentation. It's really a wonderful thing to look at your local communities and see what treasures there are. So on to the next slide, I'll tell you a little bit more about AHS. Our mission really is to connect people through the power of Arizona history. We try to do that every day with our exhibits and any reference requests that come our way, but programs like these we love because we get to connect further and bring more unique content to people. On the next slide, you'll see that we actually work a nonprofit organization, but also a state agency established in 1864. We have 4 locations across the state: Flagstaff Pioneer Museum, of course, here in Tempe, the Papago Park Arizona Heritage Center, Tucson, the Arizona History Museum, and Yuma is the San Guinetti House. We collect, we preserve, and we share the stories of Arizona's past through museum exhibits, library archives, historic sites, educational programs, and of course, our journal. But we also have some upcoming exhibits and programs we'd love to tell you about. Actually, starting tomorrow on air, our Broadcasting the News in Arizona is live. The exhibit is open and you are welcome to drop by at the Tempe location. And then I'm going to have Todd explain the next one.
Yes, so we have the honor of hosting the COVID Memorial event on March 7th. The first Monday in March has been proclaimed by several of our mayors as COVID Victims and Survivors Memorial Day. We had a great turnout. We had a very important event last year and turnout from survivors of people last year. And this year, we have the honor of hosting the COVID Memorial Quilt. That's right. Just like the AIDS quilt of the past, one of the original workers on that quilt handed quilting down to her daughter, and she's 14, and she spearheaded the COVID Memorial Quilt in the last 2 years. So we're honored to get about 24 panels of it.
Wonderful. That'll be a great experience. That's in person as well as the last exhibit on air. But Digging Deep is another virtual event for all of those far and wide, exploring some new AHS finding records. So we have interests all over the board. Please come enjoy all of what we have to offer. And if you want to stay even more connected, we have this really snazzy license plate. I swear that it will make you 10% cooler. But in any case, you can become a member, you can sign up for our email list, just stay connected with us. We'd love to hear more from you and do more programs like this, instigated by the community. So just a few helpful reminders. We went over this a little bit at the beginning and we already saw the benefits of it. Please use the chat box for comments and questions. Please note that you are being recorded, so please try to keep it without your mic on, and if you'd like, you do not have to show the video. We just encourage that because it will focus more on the recording side, the people who are presenting, as well as the information on screen. And you will get a link to the recording afterwards, so if you don't miss anything, we'll send that out. And if you enjoyed this program, please consider being a member or, signing up for a newsletter. All right. Without further ado, let's talk about some of our presenters. I will have Jessica take the stage and introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Isabel. I really appreciate you all inviting me into this space to talk a little bit about Black collections at ASU Library. And thank you to the Okemah community also for inviting me into this space. I greatly appreciate you all. So my name is Jessica Salo. I'll respond to Jessica or Jess, either one is fine with me. Currently, I am the Assistant Archivist of Black Collections at ASU Library, Tempe campus. This is a brand new position, a brand new collection to ASU Library. And as you can see from this slide, it was established in 2021 with the support of the ASU LIFT initiative, and LIFT is Listen, Invest, Facilitate, and Teach, which was ASU's commitment to Black students, faculty, and staff. During 2020, there was a lot of civil unrest due to the murder of George Floyd, and with the Black Lives Matter movement, ASU really wanted to commit to trying to uplift Black voices, and that's through the students, faculty, and staff, and as well as the community. And so this particular position was funded, and I am here to represent the ASU and community to further advance Black voices, especially internally and externally to ASU. And so with this position, I am currently doing a lot of groundwork in order to make the collection more robust. Currently, ASU has a small collection that is dedicated to Black life, but my goal and my mission is to make it big, huge, as big as it can possibly be. At any point. And so that's my charge, and that's what I'm here to do. And so on this slide, you can see a couple of things. So to the left is a picture of me that I took for an article that was for the ASU News regarding the position and the collection that we brought on, which was in January of 2022. It was the J. Eugene Grigsby Jr. collection. Dr. Grigsby was a prominent Black faculty at ASU. He taught in the art department, and he's a renowned Black artist. And so we have some of his collection at ASU. And so that is a collection that we're really proud to bring under Black Collections umbrella. And so that was a picture that was taken during that time. And if you'd like to learn more about the collection or about Black collections just in general, my contact information is available on this slide. And in the middle here, I just wanted to highlight that I did a community conversations event at ASU Library, which is currently on their YouTube channel. So it's ASU Library, the YouTube channel. And so if you're interested to learn more about Black collections and have me talk for 45 minutes about Black collections, please go to the YouTube channel and check out that. And then recently we did a really great event this last Monday with the Grigsby family, talking about Dr. Grigsby and his legacy, not just within ASU, but around the country, because he had a wide interest. He was a renowned artist. A lot of his paintings are all over the world. And so we had a really great talk with his son, Marshall Grigsby, and with Dr. Bernard Young, who was recruited to ASU by Dr. Grigsby and is still a teacher at the art school as of right now. So if you'd like to learn more, please reach out to me. I would love to talk to you about Black collections and let you know that ASU is committed to highlighting and, having people know that Black life actually is important and that it's relevant and that we need to have more within our archival collections. So I'll go ahead and pass it back to Isabel. Thank you so much, Isabel.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Jessica. I think it's wonderful to know that really there's a lot out there. There's a lot more history to discover, including Okemah. And this is just a slide to say the Okemah Foundation was actually a grassroots effort by people within the community to not be forgotten and to create an organization around that focal point. You can learn more about their foundation and see how you might be able to support by going to their email address. Now it's at the bottom of the screen there, but of course, when we send out our email, we can make sure you have that link ready to go. So just a wonderful place to get more information about Okemah besides this program. I know that we have a few of the Okema Foundation, including some of the people you will see in the presentation tonight on this call. So we will have a great discussion in our Q&A section. Be prepared with your questions. We are excited for you to have the opportunity to ask individuals from the community. So with that, I believe I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Jennifer so she can introduce the nuts and bolts of what we're here to discover.
Thank you, Isabel, and thank you, Jessica and Okema Foundation for being here with us tonight. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to give a little introduction on what exactly you're going to see next. So we are so excited to have the Okema Foundation members here tonight. And we had a wonderful time with Dr. Pete and Miss Doris doing an interview with them that you're going to see some parts of. And what we are hoping tonight is to bring the Okema Foundation to the public so that we know that we can share what they've been working on and we can help them grow their collections. ASU and the Arizona Historical Society are in talks with the Okema Foundation, and we are hoping to, in the summer, have a very large community archives event where more communities can bring in their collections. And we're hoping to influence anyone that is a descendant of an Okema pioneer, anyone that wants to have their communities remembered, because Okema is not the only place that is disappearing, and we want to keep all of these community histories alive for future generations. So without further ado, I am going to have a video of our discussion with Dr. Pete and Miss Doris. You're going to watch that video, and then we're going to show a video that the Okema Foundation put together, and it will give you a history of Okema, their people, the stories, and then we'll have a Q&A session where you can ask the foundation any questions you might have, and we can talk about how we're going to be moving forward. So here we go.
Hey, today is Thursday, January 20th, 2022. I'm Todd Bailey, and I'm a special projects coordinator at the Arizona Historical Society, more specifically at the Arizona Heritage Center and TMP at Papago Park. I'm here today with Ms. Doris Lampkin-Burt Johnson and Dr. Josephine Hill Peet. We're here today to talk about a community in Phoenix called Okema, and a project that Mr. James Boozer and Ms. Johnson are working on, as well as a project that Arizona Historical Society and ASU are hoping to collaborate on to get oral histories from some of our precious seniors from the community, and in an effort to actually teach communities to gather oral histories from within the community. All right, how about start with Ms. Doris. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Doris Lampkin-Burt Johnson. I migrated from Luling, Texas, a small farm, to Phoenix, Arizona in 1958. I was at the age of 15. I graduated from Tempe High School, and I entered the Southwest Medical Institute and got my MA medical assistant certification. Worked for Cigna Health Plan, was the first Black to work there when Cigna Health Plan came to Phoenix. I am president of the Okema Community Historic Foundation and the co-author of Arizona History, the Okema Community.
Would you mind holding the book up there?
Yes, I will.
So this is a book that's available on Amazon, and we're hoping to get it in our gift shop. So please check our gift shop to see if we've gotten it. But it is available online, and it's a beautiful, beautiful, timeless book of something that there's some beautiful photos that you'll see that are
My favorite photo within within the book is a baptism in the canal, because you see old photos of baptisms in the South and all of the dripping trees and the leaves and grass, but I've never seen one in a desert canal. And my mom tells me that everyone was baptized in the canal back in the day, right?
That's right.
That's amazing. So we're happy that got the book, because the book led me to you. I Googled Okemah. The book came up. I saw a note from your daughter online, and she messaged you.
She did.
I called you, or you called me, and then you knew my mom.
Yes. Yes.
Beautiful thing about the communities.
Yes.
So
yes.
going on.
Like I say, in 1998 until 2020, I was Okemah Community Reunion Chairperson, and from that point on, I became the president of the Okemah Historic Foundation. Not only did I live in Okemah, I am one of the grassroots effort who started up, I guess, the recognition of our community.
Right.
Just gatherings, and then the gatherings led to reunions.
Right.
So we had to organize that. But then we got we want to do something different. So that's when we decided to do the foundation, which
Good.
was always.
Because it's kind of hard to keep track of people.
Yes.
First of all. And I'm assuming it was pretty difficult, maybe to find people even in the beginning, or.
Well, it really wasn't, Sean. We started out as just a small gathering. A couple of friends met up at our homes, and we just realized that we missed that community, and we started asking about all of these friends. And so when it got around that a few ladies had a little hen party, everybody said, "Well, next time I want to be there." So it just kind of snowballed, got bigger and bigger. So we said, okay, this is not going to work. We need to organize and form just a community reunion.
That's beautiful.
And that's how it happened.
So did it happen in Okemah or elsewhere?
Well, our first reunion was in Okemah.
Okay.
The first reunion, but the little gatherings was in the homes. It passed from home to home, small venues, little parks, or something like that.
And the reunion was at the church?
At the Hilton, the Airport Hilton Hotel. And that was a wonderful place to go back to Okemah.
Right.
Wonderful.
Let's hear a bit about Miss Josephine, Dr. Josephine.
Yes,
Miss
sir.
Josephine. Well, I came to Okemah in 1949. I had the privilege of getting my early childhood education at the old 40th Street School. It was our community school. Students grades 1 through 8 attending this small little school there in Okemah. It was all African American students and teachers. I can remember well, we walked to school. There was a bell, big bell that sat in the courtyard there of the school. And it's kind of like the timekeeper of the community. They rang the bell in the morning and we knew it was time to head to school. And they rang it in the afternoon, it was time to go home. And I attended 40th Street. In 1949, Percy L. Julian was built at 22nd Street and Broadway. The community had started growing, South Phoenix had. And when we were at 40th Street, African-American students from 16th Street to 40th Street attended that one little school. That's how rural and farm area it was. We were not city, we were in the county. In fact, many of our addresses were Route 1 box and we were considered Tempe. In about 1949, there was a migration. People started to move out and they built Percy L. Julian School. So the 5th grade through 8th grade transitioned to Percy L. Julian, and the 4th grade down stayed at 40th Street. Later, I attended Percy Julian and graduated school and finally in the fall, there were 2 of us who actually went to Phoenixville Technical High School. So that was the first high school I attended. I attended there for 2 years. And then they built South Mountain High School in, 54 after Brown versus the Board of Education. The first class attended school at campus of Phoenix Union. Once South Mountain was finished, then they transitioned to South Mountain High School. What an honor. You did not have to cross the river to go to high school. You had a high school in your own community in South Phoenix. So I went back to South Mountain, graduated, received my education at ASU. It seems that I have to give my parents and the community credit for nurturing and promoting us, helping us to understand that upward mobility came from sacrifices that you made to get an education. And so in doing that, I came back to the community to teach. And I retired as deputy superintendent of the high school district.
It's fantastic. Remind us where Okemah is, if you would.
Well, it is nestled into the end of Phoenix. It's between 48th Street and 32nd Street, Broadway to the Salt River, or University. May I say that? Yes, that is location.
What do you think are the most important things that we need to know about the people from that community?
There in 58, and it was 2 years before the zoning was implemented. When I got there, the community was already well established. But what I did learn and what I did see and feel, that the mothers nurtured those children a lot. I, connected with my peers, and I was around their parenting and households, and I noticed. Josephine would probably bear witness that we had one parent. It was Opal Boone. She just sat on the eggs all the time. She hatched those girls, and we were running along with it, and we hatched as well. They nurtured those children. And I noticed in my husband's book, Arizona History, he donated his book to his grandparents for helping to nurture his upbringing. So it was just a wonderful thing that I saw. And even the sisters and the brothers, the deacons in the church, they were just as attentive to the youth. It was awesome.
Who were some of the earliest people in Okemah?
Oh, the
What'd you
earliest
say?
people, Doris, you came in 58?
58.
Okay, I was there 10 years earlier. We were a little bit more dispersed. We had grown a little by the time Doris came. But there were certainly the Davises, Mr. Ed Davis, who was her husband's grandfather. We had Reverend W.M. Hardison. Mr. Davis was a contractor, cotton contractor. And the kids worked in the fields in the summer. And Mr. Davis picked them up and took them to the fields. And I just can recall he was a role model in the community. Mr. Davis, you had Miss Reverend Hardison, you had Fanny Mitchell, who was a beautician, a young lady like Opal. You had Reed. She was married to Wheeler, Reverend Jesse Wheeler and his wife. Lottie Wheeler, yeah, they were members of Willow Grove Church. The activities centered around the church. You had Mrs. Boozer, Mary Ollie Boozer, my mother, Mrs. Hill, who worked with the deaconesses. You had Mrs. Darkus Davis, Mrs. Harper, just Christine Hankins. I lived at just off of Broadway at 40th Street. You knew your neighbors all the way to the river bottom. Everyone knew everyone because basically we all went to the same church. We went to the same school. There were fences, but the fences were to keep the animal in and not people out. So we felt free to roam, visit each other's homes. If the family was eating, they'd just eat. It was truly a village.
That's what I understand too. Like in your documentary, you said you felt rich.
We did.
What
We
if you
were.
said rich
We
Yeah,
were
yeah.
in
Because
culture and
in
values.
culture and values,
That's
and
right.
the land was different. It was,
Yeah.
and I remember that about my grandparents' neighborhood. It was like a humble, but it was a little suburb. It was a little suburb. It
I've
wasn't
been
an
there.
inner city
Yeah.
community.
Right.
It was a suburb, and everybody had their lot of land. And just mentioning picking up the children and taking them somewhere would be unheard of today without a waiver of some sort.
Oh, definitely. Parent permission forms and from.
That's
Yes, and then going to work,
Yeah.
actually going
That's
to
right.
work.
Oh,
You know?
yeah.
So, what have you been doing to preserve the history? What all have you been doing? Will you tell us how the project began?
Well, the project, like I said, the grassroots effort started with small gatherings, and then after that kind of escalated, then we went into organizing the Okima reunions, and that went on for about 4 years. And then that's when some of the members, we wasn't the board then, decided that to keep Okima history known, we need to do something else. And that's when the foundation came about. And so with the foundation, we formed a board. We have 8 members. And we just put together some bylaws and what we do and our missions and all of that. And that's where we are right now. We are right there at the foundation, and we have our guidelines for that.
And we went to the governor and we got a proclamation.
That's true. We do.
We wrote up our proclamation,
Yes,
and
yes.
we got it accepted from the governor. And we also have one from the city of Phoenix,
Yes, yes.
and
yes.
recognizing the Okima project.
That's outstanding.
Mhm.
So, the book was written once again by your
My late
late
husband.
husband.
Mhm, mhm.
How did he come about? Did he just one day decide, there needs to be? There's a lot of so many beautiful photos in there.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
yeah.
sure that went into.
Right, right. Bobby was 5 years old when he migrated from Tollett, Arkansas to Scottsdale, Arizona with his grandparents. His grandparents signed up for the Migratory Cotton Pickers Program. And so he settled in the Scottsdale area working for Mr. Allgood. And Bobby loved his grandfather and admired everything he did. So they worked there for a year, and this little Bobby had the opportunity to ride in his truck and be in the fields with him whenever he could when he wasn't in school. So when they left Scottsdale and moved over to Southeast Phoenix and settled in the Okima community, Bobby was just fascinated with that community. I don't know if it was the canals, which he did like, was it the open desert, whatever. He was so fascinated, he loved it. And so I think that kind of started him to really, really like the community. And he just said the people were so nice to him, and he said he liked them too. So it was just warm for him. It was very warm for Bobby. So I think it started then, with his little ideas of that community.
So what was your juxtaposition, leaving, where you were from originally?
I came from Buckeye.
From Buckeye.
Yeah,
So
we
you were
moved.
born-
We moved from Buckeye.
Just like
She
that,
didn't know
Josie.
that.
I didn't know that.
You were actually born in Arizona.
No, we moved from Texarkana,
From Texas,
Arkansas.
okay.
Yeah, when I was a little baby girl.
Okay.
And we moved to the farming area of Buckeye, Arizona. Yeah,
Okay.
not like the Buckeye you all know now.
Right. Right.
And then in 49, we moved to Okima. And I didn't know about the project here until Bobby called one day and he says, I'm doing a book, I'm doing the history of Okima, because actually, Bobby is younger and Doris, they're much younger than I. And the Okima became, I guess, a productive. We were farmers and laborers, and we were kind of like the pioneers. So when they came 10, 12 years later, it was growth and development taking place at that point, and they were really beginning to get organized. And they had a daycare center and a few more little grocery stores and that, running water, electricity, which we did not have. We had to haul our water. We had kerosene lamps, and we used wood stoves.
Right.
That was real pioneering. So when Bobby called and he said, I'm filing Okemah history and I want you to write the foreword. And I was in shock. I was so happy that somebody was recording this because, you know what they say, Black history is either lost, strayed, or stolen. Well, it's documented here.
Yes.
And we're so proud of his effort and proud of him for having the foresight to think in terms of preservation of a community that was rapidly, well, it wasn't gentrification, it was rezoning, period. Because I don't think it's as attractive now as it was when we lived there.
So what were the first signs that things were changing? Like, was it traumatic? Like something locked in the middle of your
It's
name?
like most communities, the young people grow up. And of course, back in that time, it was upward mobility. We had just desegregated. Young people were moving to California and groves. Go west, young man. You know, opportunities were better, wages were better. And so when the youth grew up, they did not resettle. We weren't recycling. They were leaving. So that kind of started it. Then the freeway, which happens in most cities. Freeway comes through, the railroad track, whatever, you know, can get cheap land.
We can put it right there.
That right there, the land is cheap. And so that is what started. It was a slow demise. In fact, my mother didn't leave Okemah until 1973. And that was when the freeway had come through, and my mom was living there and she wasn't locking her doors. Oh, Mom, what's wrong? Oh, nobody's gonna bother me. That was the way we lived.
You think it's still?
And Mom was thinking it's still that way. And so we said, no, Mom, you gotta lock up and, you know, close the house and that. But when we were kids, we were free to roam. We were out at night. It was dark. Everyone cared for the children. We slept outdoors. It was nothing to think of sleeping outdoors, you know, and under the skies and that. It was wonderful.
The beauty of the desert, you know.
Yeah.
Appreciated by all of us.
Yeah. But no, it was the freeway, the industrial. It was zoned from residential to industrial. And then they started to come in and buy up the properties and have industrial.
One day you live next door to a tire shop.
Yeah. Or the freeway divided you from the rest of your neighbors. Right now, I think it's Amazon. It has a huge, big, beautiful plant where we went to 40th Street School. And there's a housing relocation in our old Willow Grove Baptist Church. This building is there, but it's a business now.
A great video. We are just now going to transition over to another video, but this one is actually clipped from the Okemah DVD that the Okemah Foundation had created, and it's going to give you a little bit more of that flavor of the neighborhood, a little bit more of the overall sense of that community that they were describing. And I will have Jen go ahead and move us to the next video so we can take a look at that, and then the excitement will be there for our Q&A session. So give us a quick second and
Hey,
Hey,
today
having
is
some-
Thursday, January 20th.
Wait a minute, I'm having some difficulty. There we go. Okay, sorry about that.
I told you, technology issues are real. So
All
they
right.
happen every day.
Yes, so this, the previous video that you saw was also clipped from a much longer interview. And I believe we will be having both of these up on our website, the full interviews if you want, the full, we'll have our full video up on our website if you want to see that. This video you can get from the Okemah Foundation's website, I believe. So without further ado, here we go.
Okemah is no longer what it once was. This small Phoenix area, nestled between 32nd and 48th Streets, north to the Salt River bottom, has transitioned from a family neighborhood to an industrial area. It's filled with chain link fences and barbed wire, corralling construction materials and rundown cars. Some businesses sit neglected.
The space I'm standing on right now used to be it was grass.
I'm standing in front of the house that my parents rented. We didn't buy. They rented this house for us to stay in.
At 3245 South 36th Street, where I was raised.
We had an acre property. Our house was on half of the acre, and behind that we had storage facilities. My dad had chicken coop.
We'd come out here and sit around in the grass and talk and visit with our neighbors, and kids would come over to the house and we'd sit around and just have a good time sitting in the grass.
We're standing now at 40th Street and Superior. In front of it, at one time, was our Willow Grove Baptist Church.
On the other half, he raised alfalfa, wheat, and barley as feed for the livestock. The only originals here at this site is me and this address number, which came off a house when my mom moved.
This neighborhood began transitioning, I'd say, oh my, in the early 60s. A vital, nurturing community. From that point, it was zoned commercial. And at that point, fences went up.
Okemah may have been small in size, but had a huge impact in all parts of our society, producing notable individuals that included Pearl Harbor survivor Nelson Mitchell Jr., Deputy Superintendent of the Phoenix Union School District Josephine Peet, Geneva Mosley, first Black teacher in the Tempe School District, also distinguished California police officer Charles Howard, and many others, from sports to politics to business. One of the key anchors in this community was Willow Grove Missionary Baptist Church.
Attending church, a number of people down here would go to church every Sunday. They do believe in supporting the church and the community.
It was a community gathering place. You see, back in that time, the pastors were like advisors to the community. They did not just preach, they also were teachers. They kept us abreast on current affairs, political issues, what was going on in the neighborhood, and people came to hear the sermon, the word of the Lord, but also came to get direction. It seemingly was a community gathering place, also a place of worship. The children came, they were attentive, they sat with their parents, they listened to the minister, and people came dressed, they wore their very finest clothing, and they spent the day, the entire day. I became very close friends of Mildred, who was Reverend Hardison's granddaughter. Reverend Hardison was our senior pastor. At that time, the baptismal was the canal ditch down here where many of us were baptized into the Baptist church.
A common goal throughout the community was to do better and achieve an education. But the path to that goal was not easy, for the early pioneers down to their children.
Children were valued. Education was seen as a way of life, a way to better yourself. Education was stressed at home.
Homes supported the schools, church supported the schools. And so all of us were encouraged to go and be the best that we could be. We went to school right down the road here at 40th Street School.
As a child, walking all the way to Broadway to catch the bus to go to high school, went to 40th Street School.
My whole life has changed. The education put me in positions to work at a number of different places, and it's just made life better for all of us.
Education is very important. In fact, if you look back, in spite of many of the obstacles, we have people who with PhDs who are from this area. We have people who have been prominent in local government, people in business. Much of it obtained through education, through dedication, hard work, and tenacity.
The families, the parents, the women, the men, they always instilled, impressed upon us a better and brighter future. And the children, the youth, they strive to do that, because working back then was hard work, and no one wanted to continuously do that hard work. And telling us that we can do better, we can achieve more. It was like telling us you don't have to be in the cotton fields and knifing the lettuce and pitching the hay anymore. So that was music to our ears. And I was glad and happy to be a part of that culture that kept motivating and building the youth up for greater things.
Higher education, Arizona State University. At the time, it was Arizona College, okay? Became a university in 1959 or 60. It's 6 miles from here. But for us young African-American students, it was so far away. It was miles and miles. And it was right here in our front door. So ultimately, many of us made it there. We succeeded. And we attribute that to our home and to our community.
I have a lot of great memories of Okemah. One not so great, I almost drowned in the swimming hole that we had over here at the canal. You got to remember back in those days, segregation was such that we couldn't swim in the pools in Phoenix, with the exception of East Lake Park. Tempe Beach also allowed blacks to swim in those areas.
And how family oriented everybody was. And I come to think about it now as I got older, that was a good thing. They kept us on the straight and narrow.
While the homes are gone and families have moved on, all is not lost. The memories of Okemah are very much alive.
The people who made these accomplishments that we've alluded to didn't do it on their own. They had people who made sacrifice, people who believed in them, perhaps sometimes when they didn't even believe themselves, and kept telling them, you can do it, you can do it. In fact, these people knew long before that African proverb became popular, it takes a village. These people knew way back in the 1800s and beyond, and coming forward, that it takes a village to raise a child.
We made Okemah what it was. The people here made it. Actually, the area was no different. It was by design at the time, racially segregated, isolated, the haves from the have-nots. We had no running water, no electricity, therefore no telephones, no television at the time. And we had to haul our water in. Our news media was the Pittsburgh Courier, which was usually a week old. We read our Bibles. We had older people in the community who spent time with us, teaching us about our history, our past, our potential to make a contribution to change the future.
Okemah, a very special community, changed, long gone, but never forgotten.
Okay, that was a wonderful little clipped version now of the Okima DVD that the Okima Foundation put out. And hopefully that's got you the flavor and the spirit of this community, as well as through the interview that was also clipped. So there's just more greatness that we just could not pack into one single program. But here I think is one of the best moments, and it's Q&A time. It's time to get out your questions. I know I have a few in our back pockets, but we don't want to take the stage. Just in case you have any, please let us know in the chat, or raise your hand or anything like that. But I know Jen has a few questions maybe tucked in her back pocket. So does Todd, who's back as well. So if Todd would like to, or Jen would like to, we can have one of them take the stage and ask our wonderful.
I was just going to actually, I would like to hear, we didn't get into it in the clips that we showed, but I would like to hear more about the zoning. Dr. Pete had mentioned it, and I think we'd like to hear how that came about and what exactly. We had a good conversation about it when Dr. Pete and Ms. Johnson were here. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about that. Yeah, just take the floor, Dr. Pete, if you'd like.
I can only tell you that we were not aware. We didn't even, I think, know or understand what was going on with the zoning process. When we realized what was happening, the zoning had taken place. Today, we see signs posted where there is a hearing at the city council, and residents of the community and nearby area are invited to come and voice their opinions, their support or opposition to the zoning proposal. At that time, I have to say I am not aware of any such postings. There may have been, but it was probably on the side of the street or road, and we just drove past them and not realizing the significance of the content of those signs. So when we knew what was going on, it was probably too late to make any changes, and people were, many of them, I guess, ready to leave. As I said, there were greater opportunities, offers for better housing, more amenities, and so people were willing to sell out and move to other places.
Thank
Great.
you.
There's a question. Like, I think people are wondering, like, what happened to Okima? Like, what happened in a nutshell? Like,
what happened in a nutshell, I think I mentioned that as in a number of hometowns, the youth want to leave home and they move. We were not retaining our young people. They were moving elsewhere. Nicer homes. It was a farm community. At that time, we did not have paved streets. Recently, we had running water and electricity. And there were other areas in the city that were much more developed, new homes. So the young people were leaving, they were moving. Parents and the older ones were left. As they passed on, the land was sold, and it was bought up by investors. And so the investors did not want to live there. They wanted to commercialize it. And that's what happened.
So you know, when we're talking about the church, Willow Grove, for example, people have some curiosity of what happened there. Like the church was, the internet for Black people back then. That's how you found out everything, what was happening across, all around the world, and and in your own community. Could you tell us about what happened in the church? Did people slowly stop coming?
No, the church remained. It's as real as today. In terms of if you want to attend a Black church, it is a drive-in situation. If you think now in terms of the greater Phoenix area, your Black populations are in Mesa, Scottsdale, Chandler, Gilbert, Glendale, but many of them drive in to First Institutional, Pilgrim Rest, Willow Grove still. Willow Grove now exists, but it's right on University Drive, just west of 40th Street. It's there temporarily in the industrial district. So people still come from all parts of the city. They come back to Willow Grove. So many of our churches now are not residential. People drive in from the suburbs to attend their old churches.
So there's some questions too about like how the civil rights movement impacted. Did you know a lot of what was going on? Did you get the information about what was going on with the marches? Did you know about Emmett Till? How did you get that information? And
yes, we knew about Emmett Till. It was the summer of 1955. How could I forget? This young man, yes, I do remember that just distinctly. It was in the summer, 1955. We knew about it because you see, Brown versus the Board of Education in 1953-54 was what ended school desegregation. So that heightened our level of awareness as to what was going on. We knew prior to that we were separate, of course, not equal. And we had that experience through our educational process. In 1952 or 3, Tempe opened their doors to the African-American students. Up until that time, kids who really lived in Tempe school district were farmed out to the Roosevelt School District. And those kids went to school with us. In 1953 or 52, Tempe decided, oh, if we take these kids, we'll get the money for them. So they took the kids from Roosevelt District and put them in the Tempe District. That was a sad occasion for us and the kids who had to leave because we had been friends all these years, and now our friends were having to leave to go to another school district. But that was what desegregation did to our relationship. We still saw each other at church, but not at school.
So there's a question about redlining and it being lifted.
Well, that was the Housing Act, and I don't remember the exact year, but yes, realtors, we were redlined. We did not own property north of McDowell at that time. Basically, it was probably Van Buren, later McDowell, which was around the 60s. And you could not buy property in certain areas. Ironically, south of Southern, right here in South Phoenix, there were no African-American property owners south of Baseline at all. And we had an old deed. I happen to live there now. I'm in South Phoenix. I live south of Baseline, but our original deed said no Negroes and horses. So there were definitely restrictions on housing, and it was documented.
Right. I was having a friend of mine who actually worked on changing some of those documents and taking words out or whatnot. And that wasn't until like the 90s or something, maybe.
Oh, I'm sure.
The 2000s. So basically the sentiment of those neighborhoods lives on whether or not it's documented or not, right? A lot of the time.
Well, it lives on only if we pass it on.
If we pass it on.
We have to pass it on. We have to see to it that our young people are made aware of their history. We have to have them understand that there is a past that was very different from what they're experiencing today. And there was a quote by Dr. Carter G. Woodson, who is considered the father of Black history. He founded Black History Week. Later, it became Black History Month. But he made a profound statement. He said that if a race has no history, it has no worthwhile traditions, and it becomes, I'm trying to think of the word he called, but it becomes insignificant in the thoughts of the world, and it stands in danger of being exterminated. Now, to me, that's dangerous. That's profound. And it means that if you don't know your history, it can be written out, just forgotten, and you didn't exist. So that's why it's so important that I applaud the City of Phoenix Council. They just made the 19th of June a paid holiday. Well, that's one of our celebrated traditions, 19th of June. And I just think it's wonderful that they decided 2022 to make that a paid holiday. So 19th of June this year will be a celebrated holiday.
What do you think about, I was just driving, back from South Phoenix to Tempe in a hurry this morning. And what do you think about the infrastructure? Because this is about infrastructure as well, right? Improving our cities and whatnot. They thought they were improving by zoning you out, right? So yeah. What do you think about like South Phoenix? I noticed Baseline is like the same thoroughfare, while other areas get improvements and freeways and things like that. What's going on there?
What's going on is the same thing that always goes on: cheap land, investors. And 2022, give it 30 or 40 years, what do you think you're gonna have? Like the big cities of the East, the big cities of the West. What happens to big cities after the first tenants, the first owners start to move out? This is what's gonna happen to Phoenix.
Wow. So, let's see, I've got another one. Is there anything left as a landmark from Okemah?
Landmarks, let's see. We still have the Carver Museum, which was the George Washington Colored High School, George Washington Carver High School. We have that landmark. I'm trying to think if we have any others that I can point to. From the old community, I can't think of a single one. As I said, the Okemah community, we have none left. Everything is commercialized there. Our schools, those are our landmarks. We still have Percy L. Julian. We have the Palmdale Elementary School, which is George Brooks Academy, which is not populated now with students because of the community shift, the changes in populations. I can't think of old landmark, First Institutional Baptist Church. That's a very old one. Can't think of many. We call it Reverend Eddings Church off of 28th Street and Broadway, but I can't think of the name of that church. But there's some still in South Phoenix, but can't think of any old landmarks.
So I think I asked you this before, but knock-kneed, lobster, or Pete's Fish and Chips?
Well, both. Not Meat Lobster, old standby. Pete's Fish and Chip, a little bit closer to us, right on Central, just north of Broadway. But both, and both are still in existence.
You got, and then you have Goldwater's or Diamonds.
Goldwaters or Diamonds. If we had a choice, it would probably be Hartfields or Learners. Diamonds and Goldwaters were a little bit high end for us. Goldwaters especially high end. And I did have the privilege of working at Goldwaters for a brief period there, right downtown.
Right. And Mrs. White, tell us about Mrs. White's.
Mrs. White, hey, Mrs. White just celebrated her 99th birthday. I sent her a card. She's wonderful. She's doing well. Mrs. White's is just an old landmark, and the restaurant is right there on Jefferson and about 9th or 8th and Jefferson, the Golden Rule Cafe. Yes.
That's right, y'all. If you want some good old soul food.
What is it?
I just said, if you want some good old soul food,
Good
remember
old soul
Mrs.
food.
White.
The tradition's being carried on through her grandson and son. Lolo's Chicken and Waffles, those are Miss White's descendants.
Amazing.
There's one in Scottsdale, and I think there's one in Chandler or Gilbert now, but it's Lolo's Chicken and Waffles.
And then let's not forget Honey Bear's.
Honey Bear, yep, Central and Thomas Road. Honey Bear Barbecue.
And one on Van Buren.
Yes. We still have a few here and there, landmarks, old places.
When do you think the first group settled in Okemah?
When do I think the first group settled?
Do you know the first people that settled on that part of the grid?
No, I would think it would probably be Doris's husband's grandfather. Where's Doris? Doris May can help us there, but I would think it would be the Davises. Would be some of those people, the Davises, the Hardisons. There's another set of Davises there.
Miss Doris, you're muted. You can, I don't think I can unmute you.
Doris is muted.
Yeah, we'll get her. We'll get her unmuted there.
I would definitely think it would be the Davis family and probably the Hankins. We came in 49. There were some Duncans, Epps, who is Bill Mosley's grandfather. Mr. Epps was there. He was a contractor. Easters, those would be Brewers. Those would be some of the first families that were there. White, there was the White's family.
So when
There we go, Miss Doris. I think you're on mute. I think you're unmuted.
You can't hear me?
Nope, there you are. There you are.
There you are.
Okay.
I'm needing help, Doris.
Yes. The question was, who was the first families or people to settle where, Todd?
In Okemah.
Oh,
In
in
Okemah,
Okemah. Well, that was before my time. Dr. Pete probably can answer that question. The Davises didn't come until 45. They were the first that I knew, but there were others before then. If Dr. Pete can give you some insight on that.
Well, I was thinking your Davis family were about some of the first ones, but I know the Hankins were there, the Hardisons,
Okay.
the Brewers, those people were there probably along the same time because we came in 49.
So I wanted to ask, when do you feel was a wonderfully progressive time in Arizona for African American folks? What era was that? Well, you felt a lot of change truly happened after the zoning. Perhaps.
Well, from a standpoint, 55, about 50, well, 50, started with the desegregation order of the schools, 53, 54. Schools were desegregated. Right after that came the Housing Act. You were able to go and eat where you wanted. You could live where you wanted. And about the same time, well, I think that would be later, but the kids in the schools became restless, the youth. You see, Carver was basically closed in about 55. The African-American teachers at that high school, all of them had master's degrees. Those teachers were then placed in the Phoenix Union High School district system. From 55 to about 68, there were just very few African-American teachers hired by the Phoenix Union High School district. Well, the kids started to ask for more representation on the faculty. They started to ask for Black history curriculum in the classroom, and they became restless and they were protesting. So that started a big hire in terms of hiring African Americans in the high school system. So it was during that period of time that opportunities for employment, housing, it began to flourish. And since then, it's been equal opportunities, basically, for African Americans.
Amazing, amazing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wow, this has been incredible, beyond my dreams. Ladies and gentlemen, I found the Okemah, their book online, and just fell in love with the story of this resilient community. Definitely go on and find it to keep at your home if you're, if you like to keep a little bit of Arizona history around your house, things that aren't commonly known. And once again, I'm playing their documentary of Okemah, the part of which you saw today. They've allowed us the permission to show the documentary. It's 20 minutes inside the Heritage Center Steel Auditorium. So when you come in and see the museum, you can hear the Okemah story as well.
Yes,
So.
and thank you everyone for coming tonight. I did want to point out two things from the chat that Jessica had mentioned, that the important statistic that only 0 to 2% of archival collections in Arizona document Black history, which is why we are promoting this so heavily, because we really want to make sure that those histories are preserved. And then the other, Beverly Elliott, thank you so much. She is the executive director of the soon to open African American Museum of Southern Arizona down in Tucson. It'll be on the University of Arizona campus. So thank you for pointing that out and letting us know about the museum. So we'll be sure to be in touch with you as well. And if Jessica's not already, make sure you get in touch with Jessica. So wonderful. If anyone has any other questions, feel free to, we gave you the Okemah website. We will send out the survey and this copy of this recording to you all, so you'll have our information and we can pass on any questions on to the foundation if you have any, and we'll make sure that you can get in touch with them as well.
There is just one more, so really quick comment, and then we can, I know we're having so much fun. What did the families do for fun then? So I know I remember some of the stories of, just give us a little taste. What did you kids get up to? So there in Okima, what were you doing for fun?
Oh, gee whiz, fun was going to church. That was fun. We had our choir rehearsals, we had our picnics, we had our box suppers that the ladies would fix and the guys would buy the box lunches. But fun was just going to church and competing in the Baptist singing contests. I can't think of anything else more rewarding than that. It was just fun. We did go outside of the community to East Lake Park to do some swimming and a few times in Tempe to skate. But to me, fun was right there in the community.
Wow, well, thank you. And as Jen already said,
Doris, you can't forget the church picnics, the Easter egg hunts,
right,
and all of those activities that the adults provided for us. And they did this because they knew we were segregated, we were isolated, and they did not want us to miss out on those experiences. Right there in our community later, we also had an open air skating rink. And those activities were monitored and supported by the adults. But these adults knew that we were being underexposed, and they did everything they could to expose us. And that's what she's talking about. The fun we had, it was provided by our parents in our community.
Yes, yes.
if that doesn't say it all, I don't know what does. So thank you. Thank you all for coming, for bringing your A game with your questions. They just rolled in, and this will be posted afterwards so more people can enjoy it beyond here. And I want to reiterate what Jen said. If you want to reach out to either or all of us, Jessica Salo from the ASU Black Archives, the Okimo Foundation, or Jen and myself from Arizona Historical Society, don't hesitate. We'll put more contact information in email we send out to you, or you can find us at our respective websites. And we just want to thank you all for coming to this great evening.
Thank you. Thank you for helping us see to it that Okima is not forgotten.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Everybody have a good evening.
Thank you. You as well.
Thank you.